In this video, I'm going to cover setting up the speech settings on your Polaris, including how to turn the speech on and off, adjusting the main volume and voice volume, adjusting the voice rate and voice pitch, and how to switch between two default voices. I'll explain how to adjust each of these settings using my preferred method, and then follow it up with how to change the setting again using a different way. You can choose the way that works best for you. If you're completely new to the Polaris and don't know what each key is called, I recommend first checking out the Polaris Essentials Hardware Overview video that provides a physical description of the Polaris. You don't need to do this, but it might be helpful. Alright, enough with the boring stuff. Let's go. The first thing we're going to do is turn the speech off. I'll use a hotkey backspace with F2 to do this.
Voice off.
You'll notice that it announces voice off and now the voice is off. If I move to another item in the Polaris, it won't speak. If I press backspace with F2 again, this will turn the voice back on.
Voice on. File manager, F.
Now, one thing I should point out is that the Polaris will let you turn the voice off, or turn the braille off, but not both at the same time because it makes the device a little hard to use. So next I'm going to adjust the volume. There are two types of volume. The first is the main volume or system volume, and the second is voice volume. I'll first adjust the main volume. There are two ways of doing this. The first way is to use the volume buttons on the left side of the Polaris towards the front of the device. The button closest to you is the decrease volume button.
Main volume 15. Main volume 14.
And the one furthest away is the increase volume.
Main volume 15. Main volume 16.
You can also decrease the volume using the hotkey backspace, space, and F1.
Main volume 15. Main volume 14.
Or backspace, space, and F4 to increase the volume.
Main volume 15. Main volume 16. Main volume 17.
Now that I have the main volume set where I want, I'll adjust the voice volume. To do this, I'll use the hotkey backspace with F1 to decrease the voice volume.
Voice volume 7. Voice volume 6.
And I'll use backspace with F4 to increase the volume.
Voice volume 7. Voice volume 8.
So let's move on to adjusting the voice rate. I could decrease the voice rate using the hotkey space with F1, so I'll press and hold the spacebar and I'll press F1 a few times.
Voice rate 5. Voice rate 4.
I can increase the voice rate using space with F4, so I'll hold space and press F4 a few times to make it a bit faster.
Voice rate 5. Voice rate 6.
Now I'm going to adjust the voice pitch. I could decrease the voice pitch using Enter and F1.
Voice pitch 4. Voice pitch 3.
Or I could increase the voice pitch with Enter and F4.
Voice pitch 4. Voice pitch 5.
Next, I'll switch my voice. My Polaris has Samantha and Nathan installed. To switch between the two, I'll start by opening the Voice Options dialog box by pressing F3 with the letter V as in Victor.
Voice type, Polaris Vocalizer 1-2 combo box.
So the Polaris Vocalizer is chosen by default, and what I'll do is press Tab using space with dots 4 and 5 to the voice name.
Voice name, English Nathan 1-2 list item.
From here, I could use space and dot 4 to move down the list,
English Samantha 2-2 list item.
or I could use space with dot 1 to move up the list.
English Nathan 1-2 list item.
I'll get the voice I want in focus on the Polaris, meaning it shows up on the braille display, and I could just press Enter, and now that's my new voice.
Successfully set TTS. File manager, F.
Now that I've shown you how I like to do things, let me show you another way of doing it. I'll start again with turning the speech on and off, but this time I'll do it in global options. First, I'll press space with the letter O to open the global options.
Braille display, V, on list item.
I'll just jump to the voice settings using the letter V as a shortcut key.
Voice, V, on list item.
And from here, I'll change the voice setting to off by pressing the space bar.
Off.
I can turn the voice back on by pressing the space bar again.
On.
Now, if this is all I wanted to change, I could just press Enter and all the settings will be saved, but I have more settings to do, so let's move on to adjusting the volume. So the next thing I'm going to do is adjust the voice volume. I'll get to this setting in the global options by pressing the letter L.
Voice volume, L, 8 list item.
Now that I'm on the voice volume settings, I could press backspace to decrease the volume,
7, 6,
or I could press space to increase the volume.
7, 8.
Now that I have my voice volume set, I'm going to scroll down to voice rate by pressing space with dot 4.
Voice rate, R, 6 list item.
Once again, to decrease the voice rate, I'm going to use backspace,
5, 4.
and to increase I could use space.
5, 6.
I'll scroll down again with space and dot 4 to the voice pitch.
Voice pitch, T, 5 list item.
And just like with a lot of the other options and global options, I can use backspace to decrease.
4.
And space to increase.
5.
Next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to scroll down with space and dot 4 again to the main volume.
Main volume, V, 17 list item.
And once again from here, I'll press backspace to decrease.
16, 15.
And space to increase.
16, 17.
Alright, now that I have my settings where I want, I'm just going to press enter, and that's going to save all of the settings that I've changed.
Options saved. File manager, F.
Finally, I'll change my voice again. This setting is found under Settings, then Voice option. Since I'm at the File Manager, I'll press S, which is going to open the Settings menu.
Set time and date, T.
Next, I can scroll down to Voice Settings, then press enter, or I could just press the letter V.
Voice type, Polaris Vocalizer 1-2 combo box.
Now with the Voice Settings dialog box open, I could tab down to the different voices with space and dot 4 and 5.
Voice name, English Nathan 1-2 list item.
Then I could scroll using space and dot 4 to move down the list,
English Samantha 2 to list item.
and space and dot 1 to move up the list.
English Nathan 1-2 list item.
In my instance, I want to change it back to Samantha, so I'm going to scroll down,
English Samantha 2 to list item.
and I'm going to press enter,
Successfully set DTS. Voice options, V.
and now I've got my voice changed. Alright, that covers setting up your speech settings on the Polaris. So to recap, we covered how to turn the speech on and off with backspace and F2. Next, we adjusted the main volume with the volume buttons on the device, and with the hotkeys backspace, space, and F1 to decrease, and backspace, space, and F4 to increase. We followed that up with changing the voice volume by pressing backspace and F1 to decrease, and backspace and F4 to increase the volume. We decreased the voice rate with space and F1, then increased it again with space and F4. Next, we decreased the voice pitch with Enter and F1, and followed it up with increasing it with Enter and F4. Finally, we switched voices through the voice setting dialog box by pressing F3 with the letter V, then tab down to the voices with space and dots 4, 5, scrolled to the voice we want with space and dot 4. Once we found our voice, we press Enter and the voice was changed. Alright, thanks for watching and stay tuned for more videos on how to use HIMS products.